On September 1st of 2005, there was a dice game going on in the driveway of Johnny Stringer's house, with up to 20 men playing and observing, including Deron Marshall, Keith Perry, Dante Liggins, Christopher Combs, Andre Pomos, and John Kennedy. With estimates of money on the ground during the game that varied from $400 to $2,000. At some point in the dice game, Makita Christian, a Rollin Hunter member, arrived and greeted everyone. And about 10 minutes later, Marshall heard Christian ask, "Is anybody strapped?" Liggins also heard him say, "That's a lot of money out here. Where y'all burners at?" Stringer told Christian there was no need for anyone to be strapped because they were in front of his house as they continued playing dice. Sometime after Christian left, Marshall and Pomos saw an individual walk past the driveway and looked. He then cut across the grass on a diagonal. The young man had a bag in his left hand and his right hand was in his pocket. And once close enough, he says, "You niggas need to break yourselves. Give up all the bread now." Which meant he was going to rob the man. Immediately, everybody stood up. Stringer stepped off the wall where he was standing next to Marshall and said, "Who is you?" But without responding, the individual took his hand out of his pocket and showed everyone he had a gun. And a few seconds after that, started to shoot at the men as they ran away. Marshall and Stringer were running in the same group, along with Liggins and Pomos and another man. They climbed over a fence as the individual was firing. Marshall made it to the rear brick wall and climbed over, but Perry and Kennedy were both hit by gunfire. Stringer was also hit by 3 bullets. One bullet pierced his heart and both lungs, unfortunately causing his death. Marshall believed that there were 7 men present at the time of the shooting, also saying the shooter fired his gun in a spraying motion, moving his hand from left to right with his arm outstretched. The gun appeared to be a black and chrome Glock 9mm handgun, with police finding at least 6 shell cases at the scene. Nikita Jackson was a friend of Stringer's and used to date Christian. Shortly after Stringer was killed, Jackson found Christian waiting for her when she arrived at home that night. He told her that he needed to talk to her, but she had to promise that she wouldn't flip out. That's when he pulled out a gun and told her it was the same gun that killed Stringer. Christian told Jackson that he had visited Stringer's house and asked him why they were playing for big money with no burner. He said Stringer sat there in front of his house and didn't need a burner. Christian then said he went on 105th Street and asked if anyone wanted to hit up a dice game, meaning if they wanted to rob the individuals. No one wanted to hit up Stringer except for one young dude. The young man rode with Christian, who parked on the street behind Stringer's house. Christian gave the young man a gun and a plastic bag and told him not to shoot because they don't have a gun. But still, Christian heard gunshots after and then seen the boy running back to the car. He then drops him off on 105th Street. That young man was Davion McDowell, a Rollin Hunter member. Jackson, she didn't tell anyone what Christian said because she was afraid of getting hurt. Eventually, she did tell Pomos, but he didn't tell anyone. But 6 to 8 months after the shooting, Pomos, he gave her Detective Theodore Hammond's telephone number and she called the detective. His investigation determined the identities of the individuals involved in Stringer's murder in January 2006. Deputy Sheriff Ryan Libb testified as a gang expert. He described the relationship of the Black Crips to the Rollin Hunters gang. He said there were several other gangs under the Rollin Hunters umbrella, including the Underground Crips. Christian was a member of the Black Crips, and Davion McDowell was a member of the Underground Crips. Deputies believed that both the Underground Crips and the Black Crips would benefit from the crime. Ultimately, the trial court found Christian and McDowell guilty of the murders, and they were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, plus another 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement. Yeah, rest in peace to all parties involved. To get killed over a dice game is insane. But then again, we're talking about the Rollin Hundreds. When it comes to this section of the hundreds, the undergrounds, They definitely don't have the headlines from the 80s and 90s, the celebs, or the numbers that the 60s always had, but they've always been known to have a number of frontliners for the neighborhoods versus the Hoovers War, and arguably have had more intense gang warfare with the Inglewood families than the Rollin 60s, at least in the last 10 years, taking out several of their members despite being 1/10 of the 60 size. Yeah, despite being about 150 to 200 members deep, they have a ton of ballers in their hood and the funds to constantly stay at war with their enemies and minimize losses. This is because most of the families in their section are from the same socioeconomic background as the 60s, as well as having middle class and even wealthy members.